Today, we're going to talk about VAs, where to find VAs, what roles they play in a company, what VAs we have, just VAs in general, which VA stands for virtual assistant, whatever you want to call them, but they're a big part of our business and have been for a long time, and we tend to get quite a few questions around them. So figured we chat a little bit about our VAs.
Both of us have had good and absolutely miserable experiences.
Yeah.
Going out and hiring somebody virtually. So there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle, things to work through on the front end that we'd like to kind of provide some insight, some guidance. Things that have worked for us, things that have not, that really have been in a lot of ways trial by fire. That again, when they work, it's incredible. Yeah, it's great.
Huge help.
Just really a great asset to the team that you can get at a low cost hourly rate. But when it doesn't, then you're just investing all your time and energy toward training somebody, and it just ends up sinking you in a different direction that you don't really want to be headed down. Yeah. And it ends up feeling like a waste of time, waste of money.
Yeah.
And so getting it right from the start, as with any employee that you hire, right? Like if anybody's out there that's hired employees, it's so tough. You go through all the interview process. Ideally, you have the opportunity to meet some of them. That's not the case with virtual assistants for the most part.
Yeah.
So nonetheless, it's always a risk as you're hiring people, but you want to kind of work through that front end process that will kind of walk you through some of the things that have worked for us, some of the different processes, way to find VAs, how to question and vet them, things like that, to be able to kind of get rolling with them.
Yeah. And we'll chat a little bit about how to, what I would say, mitigate, not mitigate risk, but when you say you're pouring a lot of time and effort into these guys and then for it not to work out, feels like it's been a big waste. Well, there's different ways we've come up with to where that entire process can still be beneficial. Even though that VA doesn't work out, there's still certain things that we put in place to where if it doesn't work out, we've kind of built out a certain process to where now we can go out and find somebody else, plug them in, and all the time and effort that we put in. Yeah, part of that was wasted because that team member's not there no more, but at the same time, there's still some nuggets of gold that we can take out of it and apply it to the next person that comes.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And just also getting to a point of, is this going to work or not quicker?
Yeah.
So there's been, I had an experience where I had a VA for 3 months, for instance, and it was sort of just nails against the chalkboard to a certain degree. Maybe not quite that bad, but I kept going with her and trying to train her and get her up to speed and get her into what I needed her to be. And I could have done some different steps up front to accelerate the fact that I recognized it just wasn't the right fit between her and I. And that process could have been more like a month or less to recognize, hey, this isn't right. I need to kind of cut my losses and move on. And for her as well, right? Like, hey, this just really isn't meshing well. So I'll call it failing early or failing quickly. Yeah. But really just alignment early on is really important.
Absolutely. So it kind of leads into the first question, that first VA that you had, where'd you find that VA?
I found her through a sourcing company. That company was supposed to go through kind of the interview process with me so that all the questions I'm asking, I found the company, told them what I'm looking for, said these are the requirements, essentially this is what I would have them doing day to day, kind of set that. So that groundwork is important, no matter whether you're finding a company to go find a resource or just directly hiring someone off like Upwork or something like that. But understanding truly what you need and what they will do on a daily basis is an important first step so you know what you're looking for. But I went out and found a company that helped to find, recruit, and manage virtual assistants. The overall process seemed great, seemed straightforward. I loved the idea that there was a manager of the VA as well as interacting with me. So that manager was supposed to track her time. They use, I forget what that software is that they use.
Not Teamwork, Remote. Yeah, I forget what it is. It'll pop in my head.
Anyway, there's a software that a lot of the virtual assistant companies utilize that kind of tracks somebody's desktop, how often they're actually working on the task, or if they're distracted in different areas. So all of that sounded great to me. Okay, I'm not day to day managing this individual, at least to the things of, hey, did this person show up? How long were they working on my project? Which is some of those early on concerns when you don't have trust yet for the individual.
Yeah.
And maybe for any individual, as you hire in any sort of workforce, there's sort of that buildup of relationship, buildup of trust. And so anyway, that all sounded great to me. I went through the interview process. It was relatively quick. We maybe talked once or twice, communicated back and forth about what the expectations were. I said, okay, let's do this. This sounds great. As we started getting into it, it just had challenges from the get-go around accountability and what was being done in execution.
Yeah.
So I was training her, but things weren't picking up as quickly. And then also, I had this concern about her showing up and being there for, I think I was hiring her for 20 hours a week, so like 4 hours a day, which is a lot of time. When you think about 4-hour chunk on a daily basis, there's a lot that you can and should be able to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I had a challenge just kind of getting to a point of productivity with her of what I needed. And part of that was my recognition that a lot of my tasks were not so show up, cookie cutter, do the same thing day in, day out, which in the VA world, there's a lot that fall under that category.
Yeah.
They can follow requests really well. They'll show up, they'll do the same job once trained really well consistently. But what I was requesting at that time, at least, was more of, hey, I have this challenge, like, please go help me solve it. But I didn't give them every single piece of the puzzle to get to the solution. To me, if I was providing all of those, I might as well just go do it at that point.
You already did it.
Yeah, exactly, right? So there was some critical thinking piece that I learned that not all virtual assistants have kind of that capability or that process of thinking.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that was me learning and setting expectations and what I truly needed out of a VA.
Yeah.
And what they were capable, and then matching those two was really important piece of that.